Hello, good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. This is Rifat Laertes from the Islamic University of Gaza. We continue discussing Shakespeare's Hamlet online. Today, we start Act 5, the last act, which has two scenes. We are done with scene 1, and we finally get to the last scene. Last time we discussed how the last scene was so powerful, so intense, so theatrical, so dramatic. We have the burial of somebody, we have people talking about political and religious corruption, and we also have so many things that made it one of the most dramatic, one of the most powerful scenes in the whole play. The fight in Ophelia's grave again was foreshadowing what's to come next in the final scene. And we remember the plan. The king was planning Hamlet's death in his own way. Now look at this. As audience, we expect the very following scene to be again bloody. Curtains open, and then Hamlet and Laertes just, fencing and fighting each other. But this didn't happen. And again, this is I like this about Shakespeare. He usually, goes against our expectation. He begins the next scene it's basically 5 episodes, small parts, where we move to Hamlet and Horatio talking about Hamlet telling him what happened at sea. And also we have the king who sends, the king sends a messenger telling Hamlet that you should get ready for a fight with Laertes. And so there is some kind of delay. We don't get directly to the fight, to the fencing match. We have something. We'll see this today, but as usual, I like to remind you about the precautions you have to be taking to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. So please stay at home as much as possible. I am posting some of the memes here done by your friend Banan, and this one I was inspired by Asia's. So I'm adding here that the man saying, "Don't believe Polonius telling Ophelia when she says Hamlet made tenders of affection to me." He says, "Don't believe his vows." And I added, he has coronavirus. And this is Bayan Yasser's fascinating meme: Horatio, Hamlet, Bernardo heading to the castle to, sanitize it. I did this from Alas poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio. He didn't stay at home during the coronavirus pandemic, so please stay at home. And I found this online, a fascinating exercise to give you the 20 seconds, 23 seconds to wash your hands. This is from Macbeth. Out, damned spot, out, I say, 1, 2, why then 'tis time to do it. Hell is murky, fie, my lord, fie, a soldier and afeard. What need we fear? Who knows it? When none call our power to account. Yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him? So probably you can practice doing it. So the scene, today we're going to do the first part of the scene. Next class, we'll do the second part. Hamlet tells Horatio the story of the pirates in detail. Hamlet has a new perspective on life and divinity and fate. And also we'll see a new character called Osric, sent by the king to deliver a message to Hamlet about the fencing match. We'll see how Shakespeare. Okay.
Is anyone online?
I'm sorry, we got disconnected. We'll come back. So is it recording again? Yes. So Shakespeare gives us a fascinating, yet one more comic scene. And then Hamlet agrees to the fencing match, despite the fact that Horatio tries to tell him, please don't do it. Now, Hamlet tells us, the audiences, and Horatio, that what happened at sea. He couldn't sleep one night. He woke up, he opened the bag, the letters sent by the king to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, to the King of England, to have Hamlet killed, and he felt that that this is the message, and he manages to alter the writing, and he uses a seal, his father's ring, to stamp it and to instead tell the King of England, kill Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Now, there's a very interesting episode where again, Horatio sounds very skeptical, as he is always, and Hamlet shows him the evidence, the original letter. The scene begins in medias res. Medias res means in the middle. So when the scene opens, Hamlet is in the middle of telling him the story. It's interesting how Hamlet again describes the whole situation where he finds himself in a play begun by others. In a series of unlikely events, Hamlet is saved by the pirates. Remember, we didn't know whether that was planned or coincidence or providence. We also spoke about how Hamlet promised to do them a good turn, to do them a favor. Now, the question here is, where did Hamlet get this seal? How did it end up with him? We don't know. Was it part of the plan? Did he always have it? Why didn't he tell us about it first? Maybe this is the first time that Hamlet benefits from being his father's son, if his father didn't know or hadn't known the pirates. Now, Horatio again remains true to himself. He's skeptical, he's doubtful, he asks questions. The questions here, he says, is it possible? He kind of alludes to evidence. He wants evidence, and Hamlet does give him evidence. Horatio still talks very little actually, compared to Hamlet. And when Hamlet agrees to the duel, to the fencing match, he keeps pushing him, saying, please don't do this. But Hamlet doesn't listen. And he actually openly says, you will lose this wager, my lord, because he's his friend. He knows him. Hamlet is not a fighter. Hamlet is
you might not find like a doctor.
Doctor, you are muted.
Doctor, we can't hear you.
okay. Where should I repeat from? What was the last thing you heard?
About the wager thing.
The wager. You will lose the wager.
Okay. So Horatio tells Hamlet openly, you will lose, my lord, but Hamlet doesn't listen to him. And again, in a very surprising thing, Hamlet tells Horatio that since Laertes went to France, I have been in continual practice. We have never seen him. He was always soliloquizing, in pain, melancholic, fighting with Ophelia, fighting with his mom. We've never seen him on stage practicing fencing and learning to do the sword. And if he actually did this, I mean, it could have happened easily. It could have happened off stage. But some people think this is another hole in the play. Shakespeare didn't want to make it longer because can you hear me, all of you?
Yes, I can hear you.
No, Khaled, doesn't make the scene too difficult. Probably this is Shakespeare giving us holes, or making us think, or asking us to suspend our our disbelief or our belief. Remember, Hamlet is a prince. He must have some kind of a training as a young as a boy, as a young prince. But again, if he trained, just took 2 months to train, I don't think it's enough to fight somebody like Laertes, who must have been training well before the whole thing started. And I quoted this because I want you to see again how Hamlet is usually anti-feminist, and discuss this in more detail. Hamlet says, it is foolery, but it is such a kind of gain giving as would perhaps trouble a woman. What's happening to me would trouble a woman, but would not trouble me because I'm not a woman. So the question that I want you to think of, when did Hamlet practice the sword and, fighting by the sword and fencing and etc.? This requires us to go and re-examine the time scheme that the play here adopts. We go back to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. We are told that when Hamlet changed the letter to the King of England, he wrote that, please kill these 2 people. He says he should the bearers put to sudden death, the carriers of the message, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Very interesting how Hamlet doesn't even mention their names. He keeps saying the bearers, they, them, their. And what is fascinating and probably monstrous and infuriating, I keep saying this, using this word, is that Hamlet seems unbothered that he has sent those people to their death. Now, logically, he could have written, punish this, dear King of England, punish these 2 people, exile them, chop their hands, chop their legs. I know it sounds very graphic, but Hamlet could have written something else. The question is, do they deserve this? What do you think? I'll give you 1 minute if you want to talk about this. Do you find it interesting or appropriate that Hamlet wrote in the letter to the King of England to have both Rosencrantz and Guildenstern killed and executed? Should Hamlet have done something else? Anybody? You can talk, unmute. It's not easy, Khalid. Somebody?
Can I?
Yeah, go on briefly, please.
Okay, I think like it's weird that we get this new perspective of Hamlet, because to me he seems more like Claudius here, because killing is an easy matter. Friends, like they were his college roommates.
It's no longer something to think a lot about, to moon about, to soliloquize about, to think about, to ponder, to meditate. It's just, it's done. What's done is done. And Ahmed Al-Khatib is saying, should we really focus on how did he train?
Yeah.
Shouldn't we just have suspended our belief? No, we're not going to go back to this point. I'm focusing about the time itself. When did we didn't see him train. He didn't mention it even in passing before. So yeah, okay, so you think, Abdullah, that the new Hamlet seems reckless, and I don't know whether I would like this comparison or not, but you say you think that he is closer to Claudius. He's becoming Claudius in a sense, that death to him is nothing. It's just, please kill this, have this killed. One more, somebody, about again how Hamlet sent these 2 people to their deaths.
Yeah, I think according to Al-Harthani, Hamlet has no room in his heart to love.
Okay, thank you for quoting Muhammad Al-Harthani.
It seems that Hamlet is changing. He has no mercy. He has no love. Just like he could kill,
no ethics.
He could do whatever.
So yes, I agree with Al-Harthani.
Yeah.
He said they conspired against Hamlet. But if somebody conspires against you, even if they attempt to kill you, you don't kill them. The law says, no, you can't do it. But remember the political corruption here. A prince can do anything. Remember, he killed Polonius and he wasn't even punished. He wasn't even, So think about this. So the question, how does Hamlet have the right
Yeah,
to
but
do
I
it?
have one remark, Train.
Sorry? I can't hear you, Ahmed. Say again.
I have one in the play.
Say again. Or type. Okay, I'll move. So not once again, like I mentioned,
I'm
Hamlet
saying that
mentions his
we
name. Ahmed, sorry,
didn't
no, Ahmed,
see
sorry, Ahmed. You can type this. We
Hamlet
can read it later on.
to
So Hamlet even doesn't express guilt. There's no remorse. Has he become a monster? Has he become the monster he was avoiding? You know, has he become Claudius like Abdullah suggested? Hamlet justifies this, of course, like Al-Hartani has just done. Why, man? He tells Horatio. They did make love to this employment. This is the fruit of their work. They spied on me. They conspired. They were taking me to my own death. They are not near my conscience. I don't care about them. Their defeat does by their own insinuation grow. They brought this upon themselves. Now, remember we said Hamlet hated the king for several reasons. First, he killed his father. Second, what's the word? He stained my mother. And now he said, he hath killed my king and whored my mother. Interesting how he says my king, not my father. Remember the new Hamlet. This is Hamlet. This is I, Hamlet, the Dane. And he adds a new thing to the list. Something not mentioned before. I mentioned it, but in the play, it's the first time that Hamlet alludes to this. And he says, and popped in between the election and my hopes. My hopes being the throne, being the crown. I should have become king. I should have been elected king. But he stole that. And clearly his mom is complicit here because she's a major player in this whole thing. Thrown out his angle for my proper life. And with such cousinage, is it not perfect conscience to quit him with... Okay. Sorry, disconnected again. We come back. So there are now three reasons, probably at least three major reasons why Hamlet hates Claudius, the king, his uncle. He killed my king, doesn't say my father, and whored my mom. He, what's the word I keep forgetting using? He stained my mother, and he popped in between the election and my hopes. And Hamlet here says that to quit him with arms, I will, like this is tit for tat. I will kill him. I'll use evil to get rid of this evil. And Hamlet again adds that it will be short, and the interim is mine. I'll take the decision. I'll do what I have to do. And look at this beautiful expression here. And a man's life and man's lives no more than to say one. When you say one, that's how long your life is. Very brief, very short. And so we talk here about, probably this is even a newer Hamlet. Remember we said Hamlet moved to becoming brash and active and dynamic and etc. But this Hamlet is submissive to fate. He's somber, he's submissive, he's giving, he's just letting things be. It seems that the series of events, the experiences at sea convinced him that the world is supervised by God, who shapes our destinies. We can't shape our destinies. You can't do what you need to do, what you want to do, like Hamlet failed to do, to kill the king on many occasions. So therefore, Hamlet's decision is, and he says this: let things be, let things happen. There is providence. God is going to guide me to the right thing. The first part of this scene gives us a serene Hamlet, one at peace with what's to come. The scene also presents to us a Hamlet that never changed. The jester, the funny man, the man of puns, the man who plays with words, the man who likes to humiliate people of the court, to humiliate people who he doesn't like at all. We'll see this later on. And when I was preparing this lesson, this idea came to my mind. Hamlet is many things, but he's a jester. He likes to play with words. He's a funny man. So the question here I'm asking, how much of this has Hamlet taken from from Yorick? Because we saw his mom is boring, his dad is boring, he's serious. They're not funny people, they're not people of jokes, but Yorick is. And that's why probably he was very sympathetic. He was very moved by the skull of Yorick. So what else has he taken from Yorick? And what did he take from his parents? And again, Hamlet talks about divinity, how God shapes us. This is the evidence from the text. And that should teach us there is a divinity that shapes our ends. God is taking care of everything. And when Horatio says, if your mind dislike anything, obey it, he replies, it's not about my mind or my heart. It's about, again, providence. And this is probably a total, many religious people, Muslims, Jews, and Christians nowadays, they use the same argument regarding the coronavirus. And we dislike those people. Take precautions. Okay. Why do we keep getting disconnected? So what's happening here is that Hamlet, who totally, absolutely believes in fate. And he says here, one of the most fascinating things he ever said, there is special providence in the fall of a sparrow. If a sparrow falls, it falls for a reason. There's a special providence in the fall of a sparrow. If it be now, it is not to come. If it be not to come, it will be now. If it be now, not now, yet it will come. The readiness is all. I am ready. I've accepted my fate, and let things be. And again, in my opinion, this is a very boring Hamlet. This is a Hamlet we don't want. This is a Hamlet that is really, that could drive us crazy. Thank God the whole play is coming to an end. He's being inactive. He's being submissive, I would say. 2 points before we finish, and I'll give you the chance to ask, is again the comic scene Shakespeare gives us when it comes to Osric here. Okay, there is echo. Somebody please unmute. Okay. Echo? No echo? Nice. So the second part of this lecture is Osric, the court man who comes to deliver a message to Hamlet about the fencing match. Look at how Hamlet humiliates him and makes fun of him. He says to Horatio, do you know this man? And Horatio says, no, I don't. And he says again in an aside, thy state is the more gracious, for 'tis a vice to know him. يعني ما بشرفك تعرفه. He's a horrible man, you don't want to know him. And in my opinion, this is the new Polonius that Hamlet wants to make fun of, because in the play, Hamlet, the man was wearing a huge bonnet and looked very funny, made him look very funny. And Hamlet says, take this off. We are inside, you shall take it off. And then Hamlet says he says to Hamlet, it's very hot. Hamlet says, no, it's cold. And then he says, okay, it's cold. And then Hamlet keeps, remember the clouds when he said, look to Polonius, it looks like a camel. And he said, it's a camel. And then he said, it's a weasel. And then he said, it's a weasel. I don't want to get in detail, but this funny scene here, the comic scene, again, between the fight in the grave and the fight that is going to come with the many deaths that will follow, is something that many people wouldn't like, would say, Shakespeare, please, don't do this. But Shakespeare keeps inserting these comic. But again, this is a scene that breathes life to Hamlet, that gives him what he likes to do most, to talk, to play on words, to philosophize things, to make fun and humiliate those people. So when we talk about Osric here, he's the new Polonius. Maybe he's worse. Maybe he's a more ridiculous version of Polonius. We see a mean Hamlet who's mean to those people he doesn't like. He actually humiliates him and shows him as a weak person, a yes man who just keeps taking messages from the king. But most certainly, Osric sparks Hamlet into some of the wittiest bits of the play. And here I'm quoting something from your book. Osric, a gentleman from the court, enters with a challenge from Laertes. Osric, like Polonius, provides a target for Hamlet's disdain of flattering courtiers. Hamlet baits the messenger and toys with him, emphasizing the point that Osric, like the rest of the court, cannot be taken seriously. He's nothing more than a carrier of the degenerative disease that is slowly destroying Elsinore. Now, Hamlet here, in front of Horatio, apologizes to Laertes. He says, I shouldn't have done this to Laertes in the grave, but there is no mention, sadly, no mention of Ophelia. And Hamlet again compares himself to Laertes, says, I understand his anger. He lost a father. And again, we ask the question here, why does Hamlet keep comparing himself to others? I want you to think of this. Is this a proof of that he lacks evidence, self-esteem, lacks confidence? Is this some kind of an inferiority complex? Is this some kind of an extension to the question we asked before, that in a way, Hamlet is an unloved child? He keeps looking at other children, other sons, and tries to compare himself to them to see where he fits. Something I'll give you time to comment on. So the last point I'll be raising here now is Hamlet's plan. So we said Hamlet.
يا جماعة حد يقول لي أمل في اليوتيوب.
I'm sorry, we got disconnected again. So what's the plan, Hamlet? Is there a plan? He tells us that he's going to fight evil with evil. To quit him with his arm. He did something wrong to me, I'm going to avenge that. But what's your plan? I'm not going to reveal this. Probably I'll talk about it a little bit because we still have to finish the scene next class. So think about the plan. He doesn't tell us what he wants to do. So in the last scene here, Shakespeare has been building up to this scene, finally. But instead of going directly to the fight, to the fencing match, he gives us like 230 or 50 lines of something that some people might consider unimportant, despite the fact that it has